Hello, fabulous friends and fans. Welcome to this FAQ video, Frequently Asked Questions video. I am your astrologer, Nadiya Shah. Thank you so much for being here. So this is actually part of the first videos that I'm hoping to release early 2016. And you guys ask amazing questions. You interact with me. I love it. You really bring so much to my online world. I'm so grateful for that. And so for these first few weeks of 2016, because part of my goal this year is to practice more gratitude, is to give back more in some way, and also to acknowledge people as well, people who've made a difference in my life or have really blessed my life in some way. So this first part of that series of honoring friends and fans, or acknowledging friends and fans who are like high interactors, if you will. And that doesn't mean that I don't also appreciate the people out there who aren't, right? Because I know that there are a lot of people out there, a whole lot of people who've been watching me, in some cases for years, and they are not, high interactors. They're not into asking questions and things. I know that there are a lot of people out there as well. I know clockwork, at a given month, an order from them is going to come through for a personalized horoscope. It's just right on the dot, and they don't share any information about themselves. They just give me their birth data. But obviously it's speaking to them, because I've had the privilege of reading their charts for over the period of many years now. If you look at my channel, I started my channel in 2008. And if you look at my first videos, I look terrified. That's what I see when I look at myself back in 2008. I was just terrified. And that's why I leave them up there, because I hope that as you grow and as you evolve, you are able to see that in me as well. And we continue to grow together, as you are very much a part of my spiritual path. So this first FAQ video comes from Yuri, and Yuri is amazing. Yuri started a fan page on Facebook called Follow Nadiya Shah Video Astrology. And I have nothing to do with this, this fan site, this fan page rather, on Facebook. And it is entirely to promote, or rather to share, right? Because he is a fan, he's a friend and a fan, and has brought so much positive energy into my online world, certainly. So he is one of those people I wanted to acknowledge and say hi to and answer questions of. So the first few weeks of 2016, this is what I'm hoping to do, to acknowledge and honor the high interactors and answer their specific questions. Now, if I miss you, and if you feel like, hey, I'm a high interactor, this is my handle, I'm always there, please, that's great, let me know, okay? No worries there. If you want that, I am so happy to do that. And I promise you, regardless if you've been watching me for years or not at all, like this is the first time you're seeing me, every single request for every question, every request for a frequently asked question, whether it's through my website or online, on social media, is we take note of it. There is a list, really, and we go through it. I go through it rather. And as a lot of you know out there, Ryan is my best friend of 20 years and very much a part of allowing me to do this, to live a dream come true. And really, thanks to you guys as well. So Yuri asked a question. I reached out to him and I said, I want you to be the first, since you started this fan page, and he works really hard at it. He creates all these images and stuff. So thank you for that, Yuri. So Yuri asked about, how do you deal with placements in the natal chart that can, that people would call hard aspects, that can lend themselves to issues or problems, as the case may be. So there are a couple of things with this. The first one is, again, if you've been watching me for a while, you know I speak a lot about Ibn Arabi for a whole lot of reasons. And really the main reason is that his work changed my understanding of what I am doing as an astrologer. It changed my understanding of the importance of astrology in the world, and to understand astrology as a vehicle, one of many vehicles that can be part of affirming a wise and loving universe. And so Ibn Arabi lived about 1,000 years ago or so, was a Sufi mystic, an astrologer, a philosopher. And his perception of astrology was that everything in the chart is perfect. Everything in the chart is exactly what it needs to be so that you can do all it is that you were meant to do in this lifetime, all that you were created to do in this lifetime. And that includes the things that you curse. That includes the things that you wish were not there. That includes the things that you believe create challenges for you, or at least they don't create, right? The sky doesn't create anything. It's part of it's just a mirror. It's part of living in an integrated world, an integrated universe where we know we are connected to everyone and everything. And especially that the sky is trying to show us another way to look at our lives. That's really it. That's the point, to look at our lives symbolically instead of diving in necessarily to what might be a challenging situation, to be able to take that step back and see, okay, what's part of the bigger picture here? What is the purpose here? How am I moving towards greater love and greater wisdom through this exact experience right now? Yuri actually gave me permission to use his chart as an example. So for example, we have, Yuri's chart has Venus in Sagittarius, and it's opposing Saturn in Gemini. Okay, so he has this aspect playing out. Now, these are mutable signs, right? If a planet moves into another mutable sign, that is going to activate this particular conversation. So what that means is every sign, essentially, if you're new to astrology, every sign is essentially one of 4 elements and one of 3 modalities. So you can't have like 2 signs of the same element in the same modality. We don't have that. We have, like, if you're a fire sign, then either you're going to be a cardinal sign, which is Aries, a fixed sign, which is Leo, or a mutable sign, which is Sagittarius. So a cardinal sign starts the season. Like the moment that sun moves across that 0-degree point, a new season has begun. The first day of spring is the first day that the sun enters the sign of Aries. So cardinal starts things, the fixed signs hold the season, and the mutable signs prepare for the change of seasons, because Western astrology is based on our perception of the universe. It's based on the seasons, on our reality, in our lived experiences, our perceptions, and the seasons as they take place. So if you have mutable, right, you know that any planet moving through a mutable sign is going to awaken what you feel is a challenging conversation in your chart. But this can work in different ways as well. It can be also that because we have, yes, they're mutable signs, Venus in fire, Saturn in air. And that means whenever there is a planet in any air sign or any fire sign, it is going to speak in harmony with both of these placements. It will likely speak in harmony with both of these places. So there are different ways that these parts of us can be activated, right? It's like a relationship. You're having a relationship with the universe. So, you know, one thing that I like to say is that every relationship is going to make you look at yourself differently, is going to challenge you, is going to make you think about, you know, is this who I want to be? Who am I really? And it is about knowing yourself as reflected in the eyes of another. But the thing is, some people bring up that awareness in ways that are gentle and supportive. Still, you're doing the work. Still, you might be facing some difficult truths about yourself. but the work still is there, and it's brought about in a gentle, supportive way. And then you have people who like jar you, right? And some people think that's more fun, maybe. And I think maybe if you're a certain type of person, if you've got lots of fire energy, maybe that might be. But ultimately, there are some people who bring those lessons out of you in ways that are particularly difficult or particularly challenging. So it's the same with the planets. There are times when the universe will want you to understand a certain part of yourself so that you can better use that part of yourself as part of doing all that you were created to do in this lifetime. And the chart provides us with a glimpse into that mystery and in that present moment. So sometimes that'll be, you know, with some challenging aspect. A square will come along, maybe an opposition. And especially if it's a challenging, like if it's a planet whose nature is getting you to be honest, right? Because that's always the thing that sort of it tends to be difficult, right? Depending how active other planets that are about not, you know, not necessarily reality. So if you've got a very active, all else being equal, you've got a very active Jupiter, very active Neptune, maybe a very active Venus as well, then you are going to be a person who will experience transits, you know, conversations, especially challenging conversations of Saturn or Pluto or Uranus to your natal planets. You are going to experience them in a different way than someone who maybe doesn't have that energy particularly dominant. For someone who has a very strongly placed Saturn, let's say that Saturn is speaking in harmony in their natal chart with a lot of other personal planets, because that's what really counts. I think that anything, basically Jupiter and beyond, you can consider an outer planet. Some people do consider Jupiter a transpersonal planet, but I think it's like generational, right? So when I see a natal chart and I see, you know, Pluto, sextile, Neptune, well, that was happening for a whole generation. If I see something that says Jupiter speaking with Uranus, well, that too would have been speaking to a particular generation at a particular time. So it is the outer planets and how they are speaking to your personal planets that is going to represent the biggest realizations and the biggest awakening or the biggest need to understand that particular energy within your chart. So Yuri asked, like, you know, you have this part of your chart, you wish it wasn't there, it represents challenges for you. What can you do to turn that energy around? Well, really, the first and greatest thing that you can do, the thing that makes all the difference, is be aware of that energy, be conscious of that energy. And especially when that energy is being aspected, or rather that energy is being awakened by a different planet. Again, we've got this mutable opposition, right? Right now, Jupiter is also in a mutable sign. Neptune is also in a mutable sign. So what that means is, you had Chiron, an asteroid really, but it's one of the few asteroids that I think are very widely used. So Chiron as well is in the sign of Pisces, a mutable sign. So essentially we have, right, let's say in your chart you've got a Gemini and Sagittarius opposition. Well, Jupiter moving through Virgo, Neptune and Chiron moving through Pisces, that's going to really wake up that energy. It'll be more concentrated at a particular time when that conversation becomes very precise, or as astrologers would say, the orb is exact. When that aspect is exact, you are likely going to feel this energy more, but it also depends on the energy as well. So, for example, Uranus is about the future, right? Sometimes, and I think a lot of times actually, Uranus can seem to come out of nowhere, but it will be heading towards the first aspect that you will feel this most. And normally an outer planet like Uranus will make a series of the same aspects. We'll have the same conversation precisely 3 to 5 times. Other energies like Saturn tend to be more of like a slow build. Now, not that slow, right? But still, like you find yourself feeling frustrated. You find yourself becoming aware that this energy, right? Saturn is squaring, let's say, your Venus in your chart. And transiting Saturn, squaring your Venus, that does represent needing to accept things as they are, needing to take ownership for what you do have power over, and accepting that. And I think the big lesson with Saturn really is that delays are not denials. Delays are not denials. And yes, you are the one who is responsible for you, responsible for your own happiness. At the same time, there's only so much that you can do. And then you just have to surrender. You have to trust. So when you see an energy coming by transit, or you see that there's a particular conversation in your natal chart that either will be activated, or even without being activated, you tend to feel this very strongly. You identify it very strongly. Maybe it is the chart ruler, right? Maybe the ascendant, it's the ruling planet of the ascendant, or the ruling planet of the sun or the moon. That energy is going to be that much more personal to you. So if you have this, your consciousness really determines so much. So for example, Saturn. If you use Saturn, then this is going to be a time of getting really honest with yourself, even when it sucks. I'm just going to put it out there. Even when it hurts. Even when you wish reality was different. And there is something about appreciating time and the limits of time as well. So Saturn is meant to help us to really honor the physical realm. That's the job of Saturn. And one way that Saturn does that is to remind us that we are in these particular bodies, like this incarnation is limited. So your spirit, your soul, that part of you that is moving towards greater love and greater wisdom, and as all of us are collectively and in your individual journey, that will continue. That's not dependent on Saturnian things, but your body, the thing that contains that spirit, or rather works with that spirit, is a better way to put it, is finite. And that is part of the human experience. And so what are you going to do to fully be present in the human experience and at the same time not be frightened by the fact that it's going to be over? How are you going to honor the physical realm? There are different ways to do that depending on the type of conversation. So if a transit comes along, you'll be awakened in a particular way. So again, transiting Saturn is speaking to Venus. You are being asked to understand that love will come when it needs to come. You're being asked to really get real about what it is that is beautiful about you and how it is that you do deserve to be treated, right? What do you deserve to attract into your life? This is all part of what a Saturn squaring Venus is meant to teach you, is meant to show you. And so with this, if you are aware of this energy, well, let's get even more intense, right? Let's talk about Pluto, because Pluto can, is really the game changer. Let's say you have got Pluto moving up to your Venus, okay? Pluto moving up to your Venus, you see it coming. The universe is going to start letting you know how this energy might play out to allow you to make a conscious decision. So with Saturn, with Pluto, you do feel them coming. Uranus as well. Uranus is hard when you are not being very honest with yourself about what change you wish to experience, what it is that has served its purpose, where you need to move on. But it gets you clear, trust me. When Uranus comes along, you feel it. Pluto comes along, you feel it. Let's say Pluto is easing closer to your Venus and you find yourself, you're starting to attract people who are, particularly obsessive or in some way ignite, whether it's the taboo, whether it's fear, A lot depends on how that Pluto is aspected. But in some way, these people are urging a transformation in you. So you can look at, okay, what type of people are coming in? Like, are these people who scare me? Well, if that is the case, then look at what else is happening with Venus. Look at the sign that Venus is in and use Pluto to focus your energy. But both Saturn and Pluto are really big on you understanding that there are times when you do have power, right? There are times when the universe is going your way. That's Jupiter. But there are times when it's not going to feel like that. There are times when things happen and you have no power over them and you just have to surrender. You just have to accept. And that's what these conversations can awaken, that understanding within you, but also to help transform, because this is Pluto. Pluto is transformation in its highest sense, but it takes consciousness to bring it out, like really to activate it in its higher sense. A person, let's say with Saturn as well, if you're approaching this with consciousness, let's say you have this in your natal chart. You know, like Yuri, you've got Saturn opposing Venus in your natal chart. So this can represent a feeling of being held back a little bit romantically, or feeling it's like not as easy to express romantic feelings. But also with this is, you know, because Saturn has actually also been understood as a very spiritual planet, especially during the Renaissance. Marcello Ficini, I believe I'm saying it right. My professor was like a big expert in talking about him all the time. So it's been a few years since I've been in university. So that's Angela Voss. She's amazing. And she has translated some of these astrological writings from the Renaissance, really key understandings of how it was that astrology, and this is a little bit of history, very quick history of astrology, like basically astrology, Western astrology, really the foundational text is Tetrabiblos by Ptolemy. And what happened was astrology was really big in one part of the world and then in Europe, and then it kind of like Europe went into the Dark Ages, and all those books were started, like really it was the Arabs who started translating those books. And it was those translations that ultimately were translated into Latin during the Renaissance. And it was those Arab people who translated, the astrologers, who were early Muslims, who put astrology into a monotheistic context. And so the Renaissance astrologers were able to ground their understanding of the sky in Christianity. So that way there would be an acceptance of it in society, in culture. So because, like, that's sort of like a quick little astrology lesson. I talk about this a lot. There's a video online called From Fate to Free Will, and that is a presentation I did at the SOTA conference, which goes through the historical development. I love that stuff. Okay, having said that, put that to the side. When you see an energy coming, use it or it will use you, okay? Recently, I've been sharing, Saturn has very recently entered my 6th house. I saw it coming. I was like, okay, what's going to happen? What's this going to be like? Well, as soon as Saturn, the day that Saturn enters my 6th house, I, start having issues like technical issues and having to post things, like there was just like a little period of time there where things were posted late. And then really, Saturn is about structures. Saturn is saying, get your stuff together, get it together, and use the day well. Use the day so that your days add up towards achieving something that matters to you, that represents success to you. And so I've started using this energy. I've been like, okay, yes, let's make schedules. Let's make this happen. And even with those schedules, for a second week, there were issues. And they were totally technical issues. I stuck to the schedule. There were tech issues. And then I realized that is Saturn saying surrender. That's the surrender side of Saturn. So in this way, ultimately Saturn is trying to make you stronger and try to make you more stable wherever he moves or whatever he starts aspecting or speaking with, is trying to bring stability. Sometimes that stability happens like in a shocking way. Sometimes that stability happens in a much smoother way, as the case with easy aspects. But either way, it really is your conscious understanding, but also your surrender. There's a nice little tropical storm happening outside my window here in Cancun right now. But it is your conscious understanding that really will make all the difference in how a particular aspect is experienced. So Saturn was also understood as this, you know, like faith without works is dead. So it asks you to live your faith. And Venus speaking with Saturn in a natal chart actually speaks to a need to cultivate a love of something greater than yourself, love of the divine, if you will. That is one way that this energy really can be neutralized. So you're not experiencing this in relationships, right? It's not like you feel like everyone's, when you get in a relationship, they're trying to hold you down. But instead, because you have already cultivated that sense of love for higher wisdom, for love and wisdom, for higher power, whatever you want to call it, because you've already established that and you have a practice that proves that you live that, that energy doesn't have to manifest in your relationships. That energy, you're taking care of it. You're using that energy to your advantage. Every energy, regardless of what it is, can be used to your advantage. And remember also, every experience, every emotion, right? Every elation, just like Ibn Arabi said, is a new way that the universe grows, knows itself in a way that it didn't before, had you not been there to experience that exact emotion and elation and joy and longing. All of it is sacred, and all of it is part of making us better. Well, thank you so much, friends and fans. So grateful for you guys. And yes, I listen to you, and you ask questions, and there's lists of questions, and sometimes I try to answer them right there on social media. Sometimes I can't do that. I have to wait because the answer requires a little bit of thought and reflection. And in order to give a proper answer as well, it requires time, right? All very Saturn stuff. But I'm with you. We're learning together, and I'm really grateful for it. Until we connect again, take care.